Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Hot Pursuit.
All right, we have a very special guest this week, Stephan Winkelmann, who is the CEO right now of Lamborghini, but he's worn so many hats in the automotive industry.
He has to be one of the most interesting automotive chiefs around. He was at Bugatti. He had the dual role of head of Bugatti and Lamborghini at the same time, which seems like an insane job, but very fascinating guy.
And at Audi Rennsport, and before that he was at Fiat. So yeah, I agree. He's up there with like Sergio Marchionne for me, as one of the most interesting characters with some of the most experience of any of the execs that we talked to. So I'm looking forward to that interview. I also want to hear a little bit more about your trip, because last time I talked to you, you said you were headed to Spain. I know you went to Sevilla, or Seville, as we call it here, and, it's one of my favorite places. So how was it?
It was really fun. I have to say, unfortunately, the days that I was there, Friday and Saturday, were the days that it rained.
It's always like that.
I know, out of a whole month of beautiful skies. But it was wonderful. I went with Aston Martin to drive the new Vantage, which is the next generation, completely new performance numbers, some updated looks. Drove it on the Monte Blanco circuit in Seville, or outside of Seville, and then drove it for a couple hours in the rural areas around town, which was gorgeous.
Very cool. I would drive straight over to Cordoba.
Oh, and
check out the temple or whatever it is, and all the cool houses there.
I have to say, Seville is so beautiful. Of course, the old cathedral there. And I did not know this, but that was where Christopher Columbus sailed out of.
Oh, yeah.
On his way to the quote-unquote New
Cristobal
World.
Colon. Yeah, I love it. And I did love the Aston. When I saw the pictures at first when it came out, I thought, wow, it's beautiful. Now, you posted some on Instagram that I thought it looked a little bit too much like the Nissan Z for me.
I think that was a color thing. Yeah, that has to be a color thing. And I have to say, I can't really talk about driving impressions yet because I'm under an embargo, but I can talk about how it looks. And I think your take is because the one that I drove was like a Nissan orange with black wheels. And I don't recommend it in orange, but I think there are some gorgeous silvers and sort of gold colors and gray colors that make it look really pretty. This Vantage is actually a little bit wider than the previous generation and has got some,
hips. Got some hips on it.
Got some hips on it and got some air vents and sort of new aero, and the grill's slightly even bigger.
I like a big grill.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I thought it looked great. I would not get it in orange. I don't think that.
I agree. I think
a lot of figures.
With Lamborghini, I would never do that. I would get orange or like acid green. But with the ones that you had, at least on your Instagram, at Hannah Elliott XO, I like the silver. I'd go with a more subdued color for the Aston.
And let's be honest, that instantly makes you think of a DB5 or DB6. It takes you back to the Bond days. You cannot go wrong. Actually, Aston Martin says their most popular color is their green, their racing green, which is the same color as their Formula One team. And they said when they debuted this particular green with their racing team, that is the moment when, in their production cars, this green became the most popular color. It's interesting, though. It's not a true British racing green. It has a little bit of blue in it. It's very specific to Aston Martin. But yeah, they did tell me that is their most popular color for their production cars. But yeah, I would go, personally, I like a silver, dark silver.
Do you have a favorite Bond car or a Bond vehicle?
No, I don't. I would tell you the Lotus, just to be contrarian.
The Esprit.
Sure, of course. Just to be
it's awesome.
Unexpected.
I mean, when I first saw that, I think I saw that movie in the theater. That thing goes amphibious, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. I can't say that I'm a massive Bond fan. I mean, of course, it's iconic, and I do like Daniel Craig as Bond. He's probably, to answer your unasked question, he's probably my favorite Bond. But I also didn't have a problem with Pierce Brosnan either.
I agree with you on Daniel Craig. Everyone, the automatic answer is Sean Connery, and because he was in it for so long. I loved Roger Moore as well.
Sure.
But I think Daniel Craig is the best Bond. Yeah. I was only asking because I recently saw on BAT that Moke has a Bond edition, because in the first few movies, I guess there was a Moke somewhere in the film, and so there's a Bond Moke.
That's cool.
Which is pretty awesome. Cool. I also like the Triumph Scrambler that he rode in the last one.
I love a Scrambler.
But I didn't like the last movie so much. I digress.
Well, yes. Anyway, Seville was great. Amazing food, of course, as you might expect. And just
any flamenco? Did you see any flamenco?
I didn't see any flamenco. Unfortunately, to be quite honest, I was there for about 36 to 48 hours, and most of that time was on the racetrack. So I need to go back and have some actual cultural moments there besides just the cars.
It's such a hot place for car and motorcycle debuts because the weather's so nice.
There are many debuts in Spain this year. Bentley, Porsche, Aston Martin, there are going to be quite a few.
It's also, did you know, I'm sure you do, that almost all Lamborghinis are named after famous Spanish bulls?
Yes.
Which is weird because Lamborghini is obviously very Italian, right? But they name all of their cars after Spanish bulls.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what? Let's change the subject. And we'll go to the CEO of the Spanish bull car maker. Let's get more from our interview now with Stephan Winkelmann. Let's get you first to give us a little bit of your CV or your timeline, because you've had important positions at some of the most impressive car makers in the world. So how did you get started, and how did you do this round trip from Lambo to Lambo?
I was more into motorbikes, actually, when I grew up, because I grew up in Rome, and in Rome, due to the weather, there was no law for helmets. So for me, it was the first love was driving motorbikes. And then when I studied political sciences. I wanted to be a professional soldier, and I did 2 years in the army, and then I decided not to do it. And so I had to reinvent myself. And by chance, I started with a trainee in the commercial department of Mercedes-Benz. And then they were looking for perfect bilingual German and Italians and Fiat Auto at that time. So
you were born in Berlin, and then your parents moved to Rome when you were a baby.
Exactly. I was born in Berlin. My parents moved to Italy, to Rome, when I was a baby. And when I joined Fiat, I was there for 11 years. And then there came a call from the Volkswagen Group, and they offered me the position of CEO of Lamborghini. A lot of my friends said not to go because it was a hire and fire place. And I said, at the end of the day, this is an opportunity which is coming once in a lifetime, so that you have let's say, responsibility, a global responsibility from development or purchasing, production, marketing and sales, which was my starting point in Fiat and Mercedes. And so I started, and I never regretted. There were 11 years which were outstanding. We had a lot of things we achieved. I had the opportunity to make the launch of the Aventador, of the Huracan, to introduce all the derivatives, also to have the one-offs and the few-off strategy started, and to work a lot on the brand. This was something which is incredible. And then the group asked me to move to Audi Sport. Audi Sport is a company embedded in the Audi AG, so it's a different approach. It was interesting, but then there was the opportunity to go to Bugatti, because Bugatti was, let's say, a company which they wanted to develop, and they asked me at the time. Matthias Müller told me, what you did in Lamborghini was something which we would like also to see happening with Bugatti. And then he was gone after 4 months. And
Matthias Müller. That was sad for me, because he was like my German namesake. Running Volkswagen. Yes. But you started under Piech.
I started at that time. It was Ferdinand. No, it was not Piech. It was Pichetsrieder at that time. And then Winterkorn. Then it was Matthias Müller, and then at the end these, and now it's Oliver Blume.
What was your key to success working with those guys? I mean, those are some sort of notorious bosses. What did you learn from working around them, and what what was the key to your survival navigating that time?
But the toughest school I had was in Fiat Auto. And I have to say that my mentors in Fiat, without having official mentors, this was something which was not existing in Fiat at that time. They teach me always to face your fears, never to give up, always to go ahead and to be honest, because all along you have to watch in the mirror every day, so you cannot hide from the truth. And this was something which I appreciated, because it's easy to say, but if you are always in a sandwich position, and big corporations are like this, it was important for me. And from in the Volkswagen Group, for me, let's say the longest CEO I was serving for was Martin Vantage as and he was a maniac. Still he is, in my opinion, about products, about details. So he gave us the focus on the products, which I really appreciated. Matthias Müller was and is a friend, so we always had a very good relation, and he trusted me. And Oliver Blume has a different type of style, but he's somebody who is looking very much into the future. He has a strategy, and I really appreciate to be in his team.
By the way, I feel like Matthias Müller is a true Schwabe, I guess this won't be as interesting for everybody around the world, but in Germany, people are very different if they're from, the Black Forest.
Swabians.
Exactly. Or if they're from Bavaria or Berlin.
Matthias Müller was from Eastern Germany by birth, or is from Eastern Germany by birth, but he worked then for Porsche, but he was, for the longest time of his career, he was in Audi, so his dialect is very Bavarian. I don't know if you remember that. And when he moved, I think he still lives in Stuttgart now.
I was just guessing. Yeah. I was wrong. I just feel like...
There's no right and wrong.
I just feel like he would look good with a mustache, and that's like what the Schwab do,
So who were you looking at as people that you admired and respected, either, just personally or professionally? And I'm asking because... we've known each other for so long at this point, but most of our conversations are very focused on the business. But I kind of wanted to learn more about you and your development, because you've been around for, you've been at the top for a while. Yeah.
It's difficult to say. Foremost, my father, he was somebody I was looking up to. He was never somebody who was telling me what to do and how to do, but he was always giving me guidelines and something which I appreciate now, that he's not in this world anymore, and I understood a lot at my age today on how he acted and why. So it was always a given that he was present in the moments when I needed the most, and it was clear that I had to study after high school, but he was never pushing me in one direction. And also when I said that I wanted to be a professional soldier, he was maybe shocked.
Was he not? He was not a military man.
No,
himself.
he was a diplomat for the United Nations.
Okay.
For this special organization which has the headquarters in Rome, which is called the Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO. So this is the reason why I grew up in Italy and in Rome.
And you would have been an Italian soldier, or you would have joined the Bundeswehr?
I was in the German army. I was a paratrooper, and I wanted to. This was what I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the
Fallschirmjäger.
Fallschirmjäger, exactly.
Very cool. It's also interesting to me that you were in the kind of Agnelli clan, like you were in the Ferrari group, and then you went to run Lamborghini. What's that relationship like? Is there a rivalry? They're both in the Motor Valley, right? But they're seen, I think, very differently.
Culturally, too.
They have very different clientele, yes. I would think. How do you view that?
Well, Fiat Auto is something which is not existing today anymore. And Ferrari is, let's say, is a made in Italy, and it's an icon, not only in Italy, but worldwide. And Lamborghini was an underdog for decades now. It was not very successful company. Only in the last time we are working on eye level, in my opinion. We are very different in terms of approach. Our cars are very recognizable. I think it's good to be, let's say, rivals, but also very close, because we learn, at least I learned a lot from Fiat Auto, but also from the Ferrari guys. I know a lot of them, and I only can tell positive things. So there is rivalry. We have different products, very different from the DNA and the approach, but at the end we serve the same customer type.
Rich. Because I think of, if I go to a Ferrari Challenge, weekend at Lime Rock, or like a Lamborghini driving school in Vegas, there's a different kind of dude
for
driving
sure.
those cars.
We have younger customers. We have people which want to be recognized in their cars. They're very proud. They love Made in Italy, but also the Ferrari guys have this attitude. And I would never say something negative about Ferrari. You will not.
I'm not trying to tease that out of you.
I'm curious. Did you watch the Ferrari movie?
Partially.
Did you? What was your impression?
Boring. I switched it off.
I saw the whole thing at a screening, and I love Penelope Cruz.
Okay.
That's my take.
Okay.
But the thing that was impressed upon me in that movie, and I guess I knew already, was that Enzo Ferrari sold cars to race. Whereas I think a company like Porsche races to sell cars, right? But for Lamborghini, there is racing, but it's not really part of your DNA like those other companies, right?
No, because Ferruccio Lamborghini, when he founded the company, he said, I don't have to prove that I'm able to do the best cars, the best super sports cars, so I am not going into racing, because it's a matter of fact that ours are the best. In my opinion, things change. So we started with the one make race series in 2009, which we called Super Trofeo. We started first in Europe, then we have also one in North America and one in Asia. It's very successful until today. And then we stepped up into GT3. All these type of races have a similarity to, or they are still into gentleman drivers attitude. You can recognize the street legal car on the racetrack. So our Huracan looks very much the same if it's a GT3 or a street legal car, also a Super Trofeo. And now we entered this LMDH, now the hypercar idea. And this was a tough decision for us. But it came at the right time. Why? Because we have a hybrid system, which is now what we're doing with all our lineup. We're racing with WEC and IMSA, which is also very positive. So we have a worldwide visibility. They told us that it's going to be an overseeable budget. So this was another reason why. And last but not least, also the fact that you have endurance racing, so you have a lot of good results in terms of testing materials and things like this, which is then also useful in the series production. So these are the things. We came late. We came 1 year later than the others. And now we're looking forward to Le Mans this year, which will be the most important race of the year.
I guess now we can sort of dig into the car thing. And, you mentioned that it was not a foregone conclusion that you would get into racing and that it was a difficult decision. What were some of the arguments to not get involved? Just so we can understand, what's the debate on the other side of not doing it?
That you don't have the money, that you don't have the headcount, that you don't have time to do so, that you're losing, that you're not competitive. All these fears are part of the business because you have a name which you have to defend. And so when we decided to start slow with the one make series, and therefore to step into it peu à peu, and it worked out so far. I think it's the right approach because we are not having a company in the company, because big OEMs, they really have hundreds of people working for motorsports, which we don't. We have a very limited budget, so we have to work with partners. And this is limiting also the opportunities now to be big and to win big races. But I think it's what people expect, and first of all is what we want to be, because we want to, let's say, challenge ourselves also in racing and not only in street legal cars.
By the way, the Aventador was for a long time my all-time favorite car. I actually met you on the circuit, the F1 circuit in Barcelona, when I first drove the Aventador SV, which was awesome. Recently, I got to drive the...
You know what happened there? That was the day when they gave us the okay on the Urus. I don't know if you remember.
Yes. That was so long ago.
Yeah,
that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a very memorable time for me. But recently I got to drive the Huracan Sterrato. And I'd driven the Huracan before at different racing schools and stuff, and it's obviously the track-focused weapon of your arsenal. But the Sterrato changed everything for me. I think it was the most fun I've ever had driving a car off the track, not off-road, because I wasn't allowed to take it off-road. But
I think the question is, do you get many customers crying in your cars? Because apparently the car brought Matt to tears.
In a happy way.
This is what he said.
In a happy way. It was just the brutality of the engine combined with, the compliance of the suspension was just such an amazing experience. And the ultimate question is, what comes next? Because the Aventador has been replaced now by the Revuelto. So we know what the 12-cylinder follow-on is. What comes now after the Huracan?
But we will have the new Huracan. We will present the second part of the year here in the US. So it will be a very important event. It will be the world premiere. And what we are trying to do in Lamborghini, even with limited resources, is always to, let's say, to do something which is unexpected, no? And the Sterrato was something like this. And we said, we have a four-wheel drive system. We have a car which is robust. We have the best quality ever. Why can't we do something which is not off-road, but off the concrete? No, Sterrato means the one which is on dusty roads.
I took it, by the way, on the oldest unpaved road in America.
Okay, you see.
Yeah, from the Revolutionary War, just about 50 miles north of here. It was very cool.
So, and it's a car which is not only lifestyle, and it's, for example, I think in the US, but also in the rest of the world, with all the potholes in the cities, it's a car which is even more easy to drive and comfortable. And on top of that, if you go on the racetrack or off-road, it's so much fun. And I think that a car company like ours can do things like this. And we were daring to do so. And the success for me was expected. For others was unexpected, but for me it was very much expected.
It does seem to me that Lamborghini is a company that isn't afraid to have a little bit of fun. I know certainly you're protective of the brand and the image. And it's really a good point when you say, look, you have to worry about losing. And when you join a racing series, you could lose, and that doesn't reflect well. But it does seem like Lamborghini is a little more open to playfulness. Is that accurate? And how do you give that image without actually exposing yourself to too big of a risk?
But I think that if you buy a Lamborghini, you don't buy the car because you need it, but because you want to have a dream fulfilled. And also in terms of racing, maybe I forgot to say, if we lose in style, no? Because everybody recognizes that we are the smallest OEM in a big series. So they see what is happening. When we have one car on the grid, there are others which have 3 or 5. And this is clearly then giving you the idea of what is happening. And for sure, we have to do things which others don't dare to do. And in my opinion, this is one of the things. And we always talk to our people and we ask them to come up with ideas. And the Sterrato is just an example. No? And who knows what is coming next. Also, all the attempts we did on the Essenza, no? Which was the last of a kind in terms of a V12 based on the Aventador as a not homologated car, which is was an incredible success. And we did it, and we risked to lose, but it was very well perceived.
I would like to have one of those. Yeah. By the way, after you work at Audi, Rennsport, and Bugatti, and Lamborghini, I would expect that if I go into your personal garage at home, you've got a Chiron sitting there, maybe an RS6.
I mean, I've seen him in a Bugatti out on the roads.
And a Aventador, like one of the limited editions. What have you got at home?
So first of all, I'm not that rich. And second, I don't have any car which is belonging to me because I don't have space. And frankly speaking, I love to drive cars. But I also know that if you have historical cars, which I like and I appreciate, you have to take care of them. And I don't have time and I don't want to bother others to take care of my stuff. There are cars which I love, but I cannot afford for sure. And others which I could afford, but I never bought because of what I said now.
But when you, one day...
So you don't own a single car?
No, not one.
Okay. What about a motorcycle? Motorcycles don't have the space issue.
Yeah, you're right. But it's... no, I don't own a motorbike, but I still... I'm always tempted to buy one.
I can't believe, Claudio Domenicali doesn't at least gift you a motorbike. Just one.
Claudio always asks me if I want to... I can drive whatever I want. He gives me always the opportunity. No, this is not...
You might actually have a very smart idea, which is you get access to all of these things, but you don't have the headache and the responsibility of actually owning any of them.
So far, yes. If we speak about, let's say, today's production cars, if we speak about, let's say, historic cars, then for sure not. No, but this is something which I could not afford, I have to say.
But you clearly do love driving and experiencing the automobiles. And my memory of you is on the Mille Miglia. You were in a Bugatti with a beautiful woman along the route. Not to say too much, but she was gorgeous. And it just, I mean, in the middle of Italy in the summer, it just was the most beautiful scene. And I know, it just seemed very much like, oh, this is such a beautiful slice of life in that moment. You certainly do enjoy the experience of driving roads in wonderful cars.
I have to say that I'm one of the few lucky persons which can combine this type of atmosphere and experience with your job, no? And also to test those cars in different environments. So for me, this is something which I am very happy and glad that I have the opportunity to do so. And therefore, I feel blessed. What else can I say? No,
yes, congratulations. Congratulations, dude. You win. Let me ask about a little bit about the EV future, because you now have basically 2 plug-in hybrids, right? I mean...
2, and we will get the third one.
You had the Revuelto?
We have the Revuelto, then now the Urus SE, and then there will be the follower of the Huracan.
And the follower of the Huracan also will be a plug-in hybrid?
Also will be a plug-in hybrid.
Can you tell us any more about the powertrain?
No.
All right. So, and what about the full battery electric vehicle that you have in store, the Lanzador? Is that going to be? Is there any chance there will be like an internal combustion, what they used to call a range extender? Because I was thinking if you put one of the Ducati Panigale V4s in there, it could help with the sound and with the vibes, the smells. It wouldn't be a fully EV.
We would never put something which is not our engine inside our cars. But the things change.
But you know that there was a concept with the Panigale twin, with the 1199 twin. I remember. I'm pretty sure.
Not for Lamborghini.
No, was it just a Volkswagen concept?
This was not for Lambo. No, it was not for Lambo. But what I can tell you is that we think. First of all, the matter of sustainability is not coming from out of this world. It's a matter which everybody has to take care of. There are people which decide, which were democratically elected. They make the rules. We have a few requests as a manufacturer of our size that there is let's say that the rules are the same all over the world, which should be one of the things we have to take care. And then it's clear that if the rules and the laws are coming quicker than the technology is accepted, or if the infrastructure is in place, then it has to be adjusted. It can be diluted. But at the end of the day, we all have a responsibility which is greater than just driving a super sports car. So I would always say that if we would be the only ones exempt to do, sustainable cars, this would be very bad for our image and we would disappear from the market. I'm sure about that. So we have to do something which is accepting the challenge and continuing to do cars which are really make the people dream. In my opinion, there are opportunities also for electric cars to be very, very emotional. This is not the case today, in my opinion. It's a bit too early, but 5, 6, also 10 years down the road, with all the technology which is coming up, I see that there is a good opportunity that the things are going to change. For us, we don't need to decide now. We have the hybrid cars. We can keep them running also after 35. If synthetic fuel is going to be an option, for example, this is something we always look into. The first full electric car will not be the pure super sports car like the Revuelto, but more a daily driver. The Lanzador is a 2+2 GT car with more, let's say, ground clearance. And this is something which, in our opinion, could work also for Lamborghini enthusiasts.
Hybrids, to me, for a minute, seemed like it was just a bit of a bridge technology to go from combustion to electric. But now it's starting to feel like, oh, they're here to stay. They're a viable platform, and they have a lot of benefits on both sides. And this is an actual part of the business plan. It's not just a stepping stone. It sounds like that's what you're saying for Lamborghini as well.
Yes, for sure, because if for us it's clear. No, we have always to promise that the next car is going to be more performing than the actual one. And the new commitment we have to give is also that there are less emissions included. So the CO2 emissions have to drop dramatically also for our type of car, even though we are not making the difference now in the CO2 emissions worldwide with our few thousand cars a year, which are not even driven on a daily basis. But it's also a matter of the footprint of the brand is much bigger than the footprint of the car. So we have to take care. And in my opinion, this challenge to be accepted, and we see it with the Revuelto. The Revuelto, we call it not a plug-in hybrid, but a high-performance electric vehicle. So we inverted the P and the H, and this is working. No, but all of us accepted this as a very simple briefing to the engineers by saying that if I go on the racetrack with the Revuelto and he comes back into the pit lane, then the battery never has to be empty, which in other words means that you never drive around with additional weight which is not used because the battery is empty. And this is something which is happening, and you can do a lot of laps and the battery is still reloaded and is giving you the additional power, but also the reduction of the CO2 emissions. So this is something which we think is here to stay. But it needs also to have an update when it comes to the year 35. Here in the US, for example, in California, where you are, is this zero-emission vehicle legislation, which is not 100% clear on how this is going to be ending up. But in Europe, today is 35 or 36 for the small manufacturers. You have to have electric cars. If this is changing into synthetic fuels and something which is changing in this direction, we would be happy. But also for all the hundreds of millions of cars which will run in ICE engines, so in internal combustion engines after 35, to have synthetic fuel would be a big help.
How much time do you need to pivot in order to hit those targets, which do seem to be changing? I know obviously you want to allow yourself a little bit of space to change direction if you need to.
But usually you develop a car, you need 4 to 5 years. So this is something we are lucky because we are changing all the lineup now, so we don't have to decide immediately. And we can also now see what is going to happen. But sooner or later, you have to put the cards down.
Can you just educate us a little bit about the considerations going into how you price something like an Urus, and then how you would price the hybrid compared to the internal combustion version? I'm just actually curious. I've never asked you that before.
So for us, the routes are a bit different. Now you have high investments, low volumes. This is the trigger. So high investments, low volumes, you need to have a price positioning. And we are not positioning because it's luxury. We are positioning because we have the latest technology. We have very exclusive materials in the cars. So there is a reason why. And it's for sure that we need to have enough earnings to reinvest in the future. We are in front of the biggest investment into the future of this company. So it's clear that we need to have this. And if we want to stay exclusive, if we want not to spoil it, then we have to have, let's say, a price stability and a price positioning. The pricing is not out of this world. So also in our range, you have a comparison with the other manufacturers. You position yourself because there is a size of the segment, of the market, of the dairy weight. And this is the point. The step between internal combustion engines and the plug-in hybrids is an important one. We have to say it's an increase of the price tag because there is a higher cost inside. And this is something which is accepted by our customers because they see that this is the next technology and it is so far more expensive than...
A substantial increase, right? Yeah. What, like 15%, 20%?
Depends on the car. But for example, on the Urus it's not the case, but on the Revuelto it was the case, but because it's a complete new development of a complete new car.
All right, so that was our interview with Stephan Winkelmann. It was awesome having him here.
I cannot believe he admitted to not owning a car. I think he's the first automotive boss that has ever said that, and it's very cool.
Yeah, that
in a way.
I think takes a little bit of cojones.
Confidence, for sure. I mean, he doesn't. He's just like, hey, he doesn't. He's got access to everything.
I mean, so I thought you have to buy a Bugatti after you've been working in Molsheim and running the company. But he makes a very good point. They are $3 million. Not everybody has that kind of disposable income.
Well, when his first reaction is he can't afford it, honestly, my thought is, can't you get a deal?
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. But he gets to drive him whenever he wants. I was with him at the Bilsterberg when I had my turn on the Chiron, and it was amazing.
That's cool.
And obviously he gets to drive Lambos all the time, and he can probably take anything from the Volkswagen stable. And I guess he's friends with the Ferrari people, so he can take some of their cars once in a while, too.
For sure. I mean, there's so much there. I really want to dig into this whole idea that he wanted to be a military man. I think that is so interesting. And that's another, I don't know, it's just very unique. You don't hear many people say they had wanted to join the military and then they had to do a sort of a plan B.
By the way, I mentioned a Lamborghini concept with a Ducati motor. I was wrong. I've Googled it now. It was a Volkswagen concept. Okay. It looked a little bit like a Lamborghini, but it was the Volkswagen XL Sport. It was their hybrid that had a Panigale motor back when the Panigale was only 2 cylinders, but still making 197 horsepower. I just think it's so cool. And because to me, when BMW had the i3 with the range extender, that's what they called it. It was just, I think, a 1.3 liter 3-cylinder motor. I thought it was a great idea because then you're going to use the all-electric normally, but at least you have the sound or the possibility of extending your range or like the vibes and the little gasoline smell. I think it'd be cool if they did that with the Lanzador, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, I don't sense that they are necessarily going to go any which way by 2020. I mean, they can pivot again.
It's getting close, though. He said, 4 to 5 years is the runway for a car, developing a car, and 2028 is like 4 years away, kind of. What have you got coming up this week?
Well, you know what this weekend is Miami Formula One. So it's going to be a very intense weekend. I'm going to head down there. Ferrari will be unveiling a new car in Miami, so I'm very excited about that.
Do you know anything about what kind of car?
They are very tight-lipped on it.
A 4-door sedan, possibly?
That'll be the day.
No.
If that is the car, I will be shocked. I think we can rule that off.
That's never happened, right?
Yeah. No.
I have been riding motorcycles a lot, so...
Oh, what have you been on?
I've been riding my Ducati Monster S4 RS. Desperately trying to get out for a ride. The first day, as soon as I got like a mile away from the house, the battery died and wouldn't be jumped. So... I had to spend the rest of the day. I had to go over to Hudson Valley Motorcycles, and Richie had an old school like lead acid battery for me. Then the next day, I got like a mile away from my house and I ran out of gas. And so I had to walk back to the house, get in my car, go get a can for gasoline. So it was difficult, but I finally made it.
The struggle is real.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 0 for 2 in a way.
Well, it happens when you're like kicking off the season, but now we're there.
Okay. All right. Third time's going to be the charm.
So I'm focused. That's my focus right now, riding bikes.
Okay, good.
I guess that's it for this week's episode.
Yeah.
Look forward to hearing back from you after your weekend in Miami.
I think it's going to be quite an intense weekend.
I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Bloomberg.